us on Sactown Sports.
All right, very happy to be joined by our next guest. His newest book, Expensive Basketball. It says here on Amazon, #1 bestseller in the sociology of sports. He is a former, or should I say always for the rest of his life, New York Times bestselling author.
That's a pretty good title to have.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of our favorite posters on Twitter. His bio says, subscribe to Good Movie or go to hell. That's on the Substack. Also, then his pinned tweet says, the new book's out yesterday. Buy that or go to hell. So, look, if you want to avoid a hot place, you may want to buy his newest book, Expensive Basketball, Shea Serrano. Shea, it's Dave. It's Jason. Good morning.
What up, my boys? Hey. Thank you for that introduction. That was perfect.
Oh, I appreciate that. And we're reading the bio. We very much enjoy your work, and we appreciate you coming on. For somebody unfamiliar who goes, well, expensive basketball. What does that mean? Is that like is that lower level seats at Golden One or Madison Square Garden? How would you give us the log line basically for the book?
Well, the thing that I lay out in the introduction and that I have been using each time somebody asks me this question is very simple, this idea of expensive basketball. If somebody were to show you a video of Ray Allen shooting a jump shot and a video of Joakim Noah shooting a jump shot, and they were to say, which of these is more expensive? They don't explain anything. They just ask you, which of these is more expensive? You would know in your heart, in your spirit, in your soul that Ray Allen jumper was more expensive than the Joakim Noah one without even knowing what that really means. Something would tell you that's the right answer there. And that's what expensive basketball is. It's like things that feel important on a basketball court, moments that felt important or meaningful. Like that's what expensive basketball is.
So as I hear that, Shay, I'm thinking about we're still in his personal infancy of his career. How expensive is Wemby?
Oh, my God. We're talking top level. That's what we're talking about right here. Okay. For my beloved San Antonio Spurs, the most exciting basketball prospect in a quarter of a century. The first time that there has ever been a player who showed up and there was no direct line you could draw to another single player. Like when LeBron showed up, probably the best basketball player who has ever lived. When he showed up, people went, "Oh, that's the new Jordan. He's like a bigger Jordan. That's who he is." So you could pick any player and somebody's going to go, "Oh, that's the new Magic Johnson. Oh, that's the new," or whatever. Wemby shows up and there's no "Oh, that's the new blank." You have to start combining names together. It'd be like, "Oh, that's like Hakeem Olajuwon and Allen Iverson in the same body." You know what I mean? You got to do that sort of stuff. Incredibly expensive.
I love this concept. So, all right. So let me see if I got. Let's do. Hey, you know what? Let's role play. Let's just see if we got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So hey now. All right. So I would say Spencer Hawes hoofing his way through the key to throw a layup off the bottom of the backboard for the Sacramento Kings. That is very affordable, if not cheap, basketball. Whereas
yes, that is not expensive.
Okay. Larry Bird telling the Hawks that he was going to drop bombs on them and then making so many shots that the Hawks bench was actually freaking out as he was doing it because they couldn't believe what he saw. That would be expensive basketball?
That would be expensive. That's exactly. You got it.
Got it.
And that's why I like this idea so much, because as soon as you sort of explain what it is, whoever you're talking to, they go, "Oh, so and then they have their own examples, and it's always right. It's always right.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's not in the book. We've seen some of the excerpts. It's not just the Ray Allen, like you're talking about the jump shot of Ray Allen, but it could be moments. Like, what were some of your favorite stories and anecdotes to kind of uncover in this book?
Yeah. So there are different moments in there, or all the way down from individual plays to individual games or 3-season stretches or whatever. I really enjoyed researching for the Shaq chapter, which is about his sort of reign of terror that he had from 2000 to 2002. And so it was really fun digging through all of that. A player that I hated, by the way, growing up, just every basketball thing I loved, he destroyed. But just going back, 20 years later and poking around in that was a lot of fun. Researching there's a chapter in there about Klay Thompson's 37-point quarter that he had.
Oh, that's against the Kings.
Against the Kings, where he goes 13 for 13 from the just this ridiculous moment. But yeah, stuff like that pops up in there is always fun to research.
So Shea Serrano joining us. Check out his new book, Expensive Basketball, out yesterday, available on Amazon and everywhere else you can get books. I followed you for a long time, and seeing Ben Stiller, seeing Pablo Torre and assorted other celebrities, and watching your very authentic and accessible freakouts when these folks buy your books are fun. And I'm going to ask you, we've just met, but I'm going to ask you a personal question on the radio. Nobody's listening.
Okay.
How quickly did you have to toss your underwear circa 2021 when Barack Obama picked Basketball and Other Things as one of my favorite books of the year? And by the way, that's not the first time you've had a president call out one of your books. Like, legit, did you almost die when you read that?
Yeah, I thought it was a joke. I honestly thought somebody had photoshopped something and was messing with me about it, because I knew that he puts the list out every year.
Yeah.
And it was never even like a thing in my head that, oh, what if he puts one of my books on there? Because the stuff I write is so, like, the book that he mentioned, for example, Basketball and Other Things, there's a section in one of the chapters where it's like 200 words about J.J. Redick's penis. Like, it's just a joke. Like there's no, why would you ever assume that the president of the United States of America is going to like that book? But he didn't. That was a crazy, crazy moment.
Did J.J. Redick like that chapter?
He was slightly embarrassed by it when I asked him. I did his podcast a couple years later, and I was like, "Hey, we should probably talk about this."
How do you? I mean, writing books, especially when you're in your prime, like you are, it's I think it's very much speaking of a president, like running for office. As soon as you get there, you're almost running again. So, I am curious about your process. Do you have a notebook or a place on your phone or somewhere where you're much like a lyricist, writing down ideas for future books? Is that something that you stress out about? Like, what's my next book going to be? How do you go through that?
Yeah, you sort of are always guessing at what's going to be the next thing. So it's one of the things I like about books, because I decided I wanted to write this book 4 years ago. Wow. And so I got to spend 4 years of my time only working on this thing as far as like that level of project is concerned. And so, yeah, I'm always thinking about what could be the next thing, the general idea in my head. I knew I wanted to do a basketball book, and then it just becomes trying to figure out what the idea is and does this thing have legs and that sort of process. But it's like walking. You're like sort of always thinking about the next step.
Does not editing in the traditional terms of like grammar and sentence structure, but like what you're putting in and taking out, does that become one of the challenges of a book like Expensive Basketball? Yeah,
it absolutely does, because if you do something online, the space is infinite. Mm-hmm. But when you decide, okay, this is going to be a book, now all of a sudden you're confined to a certain number of pages. I knew when I pitched this book, they said, okay, well, we're going to allocate 352 pages to this. And you're going to need X amount of pages for the intro and X amount of pages for the index and blah, blah, blah. But effectively, it boiled down to 30 chapters that I had space for. And so when I looked at my list of like expensive basketball things to start, it was like 150 items. I was like, oh, shoot, I got to figure out, okay, what are the non-negotiables here that have to be in there? Plug those in. Okay, what's the stuff that I need in here that like addresses some basketball things that aren't mentioned in the non-negotiables? You're just trying to sort of paint this picture of basketball as in totality. And so you end up moving pieces around trying to figure out what goes in, what doesn't go in. And it's never like, oh, well, let's only write about the most iconic players ever. Like, there should be other stuff. And there's a whole chapter in there about Jason Williams, one of my favorite basketball players ever. Never won anything, but he didn't need to win anything. He was just like this special sort of force that showed up and everybody fell in love with him. Like, I want to have stuff like that in there as well, not just the guy who won 4 championships or whatever.
Is it easier to write now than your first book? I always wonder about the first one, trying to find a publishing company to take it, trying to find an agent, trying to get that manuscript in someone's hands. Are things, not the process, Shea, but the business, is it easier for you now that you're an established writer?
Yeah, it's so much easier. Like the first book that I pitched, everybody told me no. Like literally every publisher that I went to, they were like, "Oh, we're not interested." When we sold this book, Expensive Basketball, I didn't even tell them what it was about. I just said, "Hey, I want to write another book," and they went, "Great, here's a check, go nuts."
Wow.
You know what I mean? It becomes a whole different thing.
Wow, as we're talking with Shea Serrano. So you've mentioned a couple things I know for Kings fans out here, and maybe Sacramento obviously has been an easy target, but I was working the Klay Thompson game you're referring to, which was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in person, but you also referenced Jason Williams. So any other either nods or critiques of the Kings that would be involved in this book?
Oh, of course. I loved 2002 Sacramento Kings. Literal heartbreak when Robert Horry hit that stupid shot, or when they, the Game 6 debacle. So the 2002 Sacramento Kings are in there. I believe Bonzi Wells. I was a big Bonzi Wells guy.
Yeah.
And so he pops up in there. There's like a bunch of Sacramento Kings stuff. The Kings franchise is very much like aligned with the San Antonio Spurs franchise in the small market, passionate basketball team, the only professional, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all connected. So I've always sort of been partial to what y'all got going on over there. Even last year, I was so jealous. Year before, when y'all started the Light the Beam thing.
Yeah.
I was like, what's the Spurs version of Light the Beam? I want to hit the thing, and then we end up with De'Aaron Fox. It was like the one player I was sort of hoping we would get on our team, and he showed Spurs and the Kings are always linked up together. You go through history, you're going to find 1,000 connectors.
Yeah, I feel like the Spurs and the Kings are linked up like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito were linked up in Twins. They're related.
Yeah.
But then you look at them and you go, one of these kids is doing his own thing. You got David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Victor Wembanyama, the Popovich, and obviously Ginobili and grabbing Tony Parker at the end of the first. Everything the Spurs have done, and we're sitting here, we're like, well, Jimmer and Ben McLemore and Joe Klein. And do you think, Shea, if the situations were reversed and let's say the Kings had the success over the last 40 years that the Spurs had, and the Spurs had the failures that the Kings had over the last 40 years, do you think the San Antonio fan base would still be very similar to this one as far as, well, screw it, we're pot committed. It's like my drunk uncle. I can't leave now.
Yeah, I absolutely think that, because I was here in San Antonio pre-David Robinson when they were awful, before the winning started. And it was the same sort of passion. We had the baseline bums and all of this stuff going on. Because when you're in a city like that where you've got one thing, one sports thing, it just sort of becomes your entire identity. And it's for better or worse, this is going to be our thing. Going to a Spurs game it's just a tremendous amount of fun, regardless of if they're winning or losing. It's obviously better when they're winning, but it's still you feel connected to it in a way that you can go to LA and have two professional teams, and it's it doesn't feel the same to me that it does when I go to I went to a Portland Trailblazers game, and I was they do this thing where they pass the basketball down through the stands onto the court.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so much. This is incredible. I see why they're so beloved.
Talking with Shea Serrano here. The book is Expensive Basketball. I know there's stuff about Kobe's 81-point game. Kobe, there's probably a whole. I think about his final game when he goes off for 60. There's probably a lot of things like that just were, like you said earlier, were fun to research. How much of that process of really, you know what happened, you've got the information, but when you really do the dive in, how much is it fun to kind of even go back and learn some things?
Researching is always my favorite part of any book, because it doesn't matter what the thing is you're researching. It could be your very favorite thing. My very favorite all-time basketball team is 2014 San Antonio Spurs. I love every single thing about that team. That's the year they come back and they win the championship after losing in 2013 that's my number one favorite team ever of all time. I couldn't tell you right now what their record was for that season. I got to go look that up. And so even your very favorite things, you don't know all of this stuff. So you start digging around in a thing like Kobe Bryant's final game, specifically the final 196 seconds of it, when he orchestrates this comeback against the Utah Jazz. Like, you just start learning so much stuff, finding so many like cool little details or anecdotes that are in there that just sort of make you go like, oh, like this feels like it might have been orchestrated by the universe, this special moment. And it's like that with really any sort of thing you dedicate enough time to, you're going to just start to find all of these interesting inroads and outroads. And researching is number one, my favorite part of writing a book.
Shea Serrano joining us. We're going to remind you his new book, which is looks like finely bound leather, like in Merlin Olsen's house back in the day. Expensive Basketball, Shea Serrano. Jason Hare is a documentary director who did a 30 for 30 that was never seen on the Sacramento Kings. And I'm still friends with him to this day. He did the Jordan doc and a few other things. And he told me once that the most sickening moment, the most nerve-wracking moments are when the project he and his team have been working on for months, if not years, begins the screening process. And they will often go in the back of the theater or the room or wherever it is, and they will sit there and try not to vomit as they watch other people sort of react to what they do. Will they laugh in this spot? Will they cry in that spot? When you're releasing a book after all the things you've gone through to prep for it, like you said, in research, and you start reading the reviews and the reactions, how is that part of the process for you?
That part is similar to Air on a much smaller scale. Like, I imagine you do The Last Dance. That won the Emmy for documentary or whatever. Like, that's a whole different level. But putting a book out, you want people to like the thing that you just spent 4 years of your life working on. You want them to care about it in like at least a marginal way that you care about it. It's a very terrifying experience, and it feels so good to see somebody say something nice, and it feels so devastating to see somebody say something bad. And that's just part of the process. But yeah, I'm terrified every single day after it comes out. I'm like, oh man, I hope nobody says something bad about this today. And then you sort of squint your eyes through it and try to make it to the next day.
Well, I saw you already posted today, which was pretty great about, or maybe it was from last night, but that you said that very thing on Twitter. Like, it took me 4 years to write this, but someone got it yesterday and already read your book. That's also got to be rewarding. Like, you took all this time and they went right through it because they were obviously captured by it.
Yeah, that was funny. That guy tweeted me today to tell me he had finished it. It came out yesterday, finished it today. It's just always like a surprising feeling. That part of, number one, knowing somebody read the book, but also, I spent so much time in it, and then boom, he's done with it and on to whatever the next thing is. But yeah, somebody reading your book, laughing at one of the things, like a joke that you made in there, or like my favorite is when somebody screenshots like a piece of a page that they've highlighted something, and I just read it like I never saw it before. Like, it's the best.
Last thing for you, I told you, we're all fans of yours, followed you on Twitter for a long time. I enjoy your interactions. I also enjoy that you have absolutely no problem expressing yourself, even if it's at the detriment of some of your audience, and you know what I'm saying there. I saw somebody, this whole thing going around right now about profile pictures, and you had, and I'm assuming you weren't doing a bit. You were saying your photo was of your uncle as an homage. I'm always curious how many times people have come up to you and they're surprised that you're not your profile picture.
It has happened more times than it happens more times on the internet though, because they're not going to know in real life.
Right.
But if I post a picture, an actual picture of myself, they're like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, for 4 years, I thought you were this other guy.
I was one of them.
You were the actor Damian Chapa. You're not.
I was one of them. I was like, then he posted a picture. Yeah. I was like, oh, and then
I actually know the exact reason why you found out, because my family always called me Miklo. So I put a picture of that on Twitter, and then Jason said, wait, are you Shea Serrano?
That's exactly dude, totally. Yeah. The amount of people you've trolled with that, dude, well done. Congratulations,
Yes.
man. A New York Times bestseller, for example. That is that's going to be one of the first lines in your obituary, and I mean that in the greatest way possible. Once you get that, you don't have to give it back. And I got to imagine youngster Shea Serrano maybe had no idea that day would ever come. So nothing but the best to you. You're always welcome here, and we're happy to promote anything and everything you're doing because I think it's great in this world of short attention spans and YouTube clips and all this other crap. I am such a huge fan of the written word, so thank you for what you do, Shea.
I really appreciate that, man. Thank y'all.
All right,
Thank you.
Take care. That's Shea Serrano. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, he's obviously knows his stuff too. I mean, that's not been.
Yes.
If you follow him, you could just tell. But just interesting perspective there. And there's some hat tips to the Kings in this book.
Why did I think he was serious when he said it was his uncle? He got me again. Like, he's got me twice. Even though now when Chris says the story, I remember that. Yeah. But I think I'd forgotten that.
I think I remember it was one of those things of like who would play you in the movie.
Gotcha.
And I used the picture of Miklo from Blood In, Blood Out. And you said something. Why is it Shea Serrano? And then I said like probably something very smart alecky back to you.
No.
And you didn't reply until you saw me the next time and you said, "Hey, why was it a joke? Why was that funny?"
Right over my head. I wasn't just doing a thing because he was a guest at the end there. I like when the Harry Potter books came out back in the day. Okay, I was so happy.
Yeah, you like pre-ordered them, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You were like standing in line.
It wasn't just this is how psycho I was. From book 4 on, I had pre-ordered them, and they would arrive by 9 a.m. I paid for the extra quick shipping, yet was still in line at Tower Books at midnight. I pre-ordered it because I just wasn't sure if they'd run out at Tower Books. And then my whole thing was every time a Harry Potter book came out, here, get that nerd clip ready. I would end up getting it at Tower. Different time, by the way. I was doing the night show.
Yeah.
I would get it at Tower Books. And my ex-girlfriend at the time, Susan, was there for, I think, 3 of the last 4 books. I would get it at Tower. I would come home, be around 1:32 a.m., depending. And just don't touch me for the weekend, dude. Don't touch me because I am doing nothing.
I know you like Harry Potter.
But reading the book. In part because I knew that stupid-ass listeners like Poker Pro Eric would be there to give away spoilers. Yeah. That being said, the thing I always loved about it was nobody reads anymore. When they do, they read very, very short blips for the most part. And whether it's Bill Simmons back in the day when he used to actually write, whether it's Shea Serrano, whether it's, for better or worse, Rick Riley, Mitch Albom, and so many of the greats that are just so easy to read, there's still something about the written word that really sinks in more, I think, into your soul when you're reading it as opposed to just watching a well-put-together highlight thing. So for Shea, I hope it's not just, guys like me and you and Chris that read his stuff, but, this is the type of thing I would have been all over for Christmas from my parents when I was growing up, that I would be sitting all day Christmas afternoon and evening curled up in a corner reading and looking at the pictures. I think that's
cool.
important. We'll take a break. When we come back, What's on Deck, brought to you by Trex